X-Men, the animated series. This show is fantastic. So I started watching this show on Disney Plus because this is one of those shows that everyone talks about who grew up on it. It isn't like Batman the animated series in terms of like everyone talks about it just because of the quality alone of this series. Right? But everybody talks about it. And I watched it. I was afraid it wasn't going to hold up. But man, this show slaps. This show is so freaking good. So I'm not a Marvel fanboy at all. Like, I like elements of the movies. Like, I love certain characters from Marvel. I read certain I literally have a Fantastic Four poster right there. I have a couple Thanos figures in my cabinet over there. I got a few Captain Marvel stuff. Not Captain Marvel, Captain America. I hate Captain Marvel as a character in the comics and in the movies. But I'm more of a DC person, right? Because I literally on my desk right now, I got this Batman, that Batman. I got the Funkoverse DC. I got a Kid Flash over there, plushie. I got a lot of I got another Batman. I got a lot of there's some DC figures at the top of that white shelf. I don't know if you can see that, my camera. But I huge DC fan. I have a ton of DC. I have a lot of DC stuff, and I want to get more. But the point is, like, Marvel's cool. Marvel's there, and I'm like, yeah, Marvel, cool, thumbs up. But it's not. I think Marvel characters are just weaker. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. DC has theirs, Marvel has theirs. But in terms of which characters I prefer more, it's DC. And in terms of the movies lately, they haven't been the greatest, but we're not going to get into that. But when it comes to Marvel, there are two things I love. No, sorry, three. Spider-Man. And I mean classic Spider-Man, not so much newer day comic Spider-Man or newer movie Spider-Man. Classic Spider-Man. Fantastic Four and X-Men. And as an X-Men fan, I read a lot of comics based on the X-Men. And I know, like, a lot of the stories in and out. I'm a huge fan of them. If you want my favorite X-Men, it's probably between Gambit, Beast. Yeah, those are my favorite. My favorite X-Men storyline is... I'm not even going to say, because that's a really hard question that I would have to think about for a long time. I have a ton of choices in my head. I mean, if you want my favorite Wolverine story, it's the Old Man Logan story. But I don't know. But yeah, I'm a huge X-Men fan. And I thought the show might be super dated. I thought it might be super cheesy. It might ruin a lot of the great stories I know. Because, you're making this in the 90s. And we don't make shows like we did back. We make shows very different now for kids. Different stuff like that. The characters are... so I was like, I don't know. How would this translate to a modern audience? And I watched it, and they really, rarely dumbed down the stories. Sorry, someone's trying to call me while I'm recording this. It's like, stop. They rarely dumbed down the stories. I really thought they adapted the stories really well. There are some that are simplified a little bit. And I wouldn't say so much as they're dumbed down, but just kind of simplified a little bit. And I like that. I like those stories. I think they were good. I like those. I think the theme song to the show is really good. That's really great. And I think that's a really great theme song. I think that a lot of the character writing animation is really good. I think the amount of characters that recur, like how story driven a lot of the show is really impressive for a show in the 90s. Because Batman animated series was good, but it's very episodic. All shows that aired on television during this time were very episodic. But if we're watching, but like X-Men is very, very, very story focused. There are multi-part episodes. There are just one-off episodes that connect to another episode, and they're really, really good. I love those episodes, and I like the stories that they adapt. I think they're really good. I think the character writing, the theme song, the amount of obscure X-Men references. I was like, wow, they actually put the original X-Men suits in like a short glimpse in one episode. I was like, yeah, you did that. Where I think this show falters, season 5 was kind of bad. Not completely horrible, but just all the episodes feel like they move too fast or just kind of glossed over. And I think those episodes are really like frustrating. But they're not horrible episodes or anything, and there's only like 6 of them in season 5. So, but yeah, the show has 5 seasons, and 4 of them are great. So, one kind of ass season doesn't really matter too much, and it's only like 6 episodes, like I said. I also think that the reason why I say the show isn't very dated, it's not very dated in terms of how the stories work, how the character writing works and flows. I think when we're talking about the technology used within the show, that can be dated, and some of the slang, but for the most part the show works really well, and it's not really too dated at all. I think anyone can watch this and find a good show. I think even if you're an adult, this show is just really good and really smart, and the amount that they were able to portray throughout the show is actually fantastic, and I'm really shocked how good this show was. And I watched it, I love it, and I feel like this show is what Batman animated series did for X-Men. X-Men weren't too big at the time. Neither was Batman. He was in Batman Returns, but then there's Batman Forever, Batman Realm, kind of his reputation. X-Men weren't in any movies, but they didn't really have a reputation. So these shows were able to show the strengths of their characters and make a great show using their characters properly and show people this is what these characters are when they're at their best, but yet in a kid show format, and that broke new grounds. And these shows were great, including this show. And if you have Disney Plus, if you love X-Men or Marvel in general, you should watch the show. I highly recommend it. But yeah, check it out.